If the OnePlus Open 2 isn't one of your most anticipated phones of 2025, I don't know what you're doing, guys. We have to talk about this phone again because we have a fresh set of leaks from Digital Chat Station, a leaker who does seem to get stuff with regard to Oppo and OnePlus very correct a lot of the time. And man, if they're right this time, this phone is going to be unbelievable. So like usual with these leaks, we are looking at a post that Digital Chat Station made on a Chinese social media website, which I believe is called Weibo, if I'm remembering correctly. And so this is being translated to English. So some of this might sound a little bit strange. Large folding engineering machine is immediately a strange way to start a sentence. Or perhaps it's a great way to make a shirt. Anyways, the general design continues the previous generation. The screen size has been increased. The rear center large round lens, 50 megapixel Hasselblad master tone large bottom camera. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff, but that's important. The center large round lens, Hasselblad, 50 megapixel. That kind of tells us the phone that we're talking about, and there's only really one phone that's going to fit the description that also Digital Chat Station frequently talks about, and that is the sequel from Oppo as well as the sequel from OnePlus. We're going to call it the OnePlus Open 2. Oppo is going to have their own name. It's the same phone, but that's what we're talking about. So the screen size is larger. That's interesting because the Open was already quite a large screen, and maybe they're going to be trying to get a little bit bigger. I think that the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is slightly larger than the OnePlus Open, so maybe they're going to try to chase that. For the next bit here, we're talking about the cameras, and this is very interesting. So 50 megapixel, that's your main, plus 50 megapixel, assuming ultra wide, plus 50 megapixel 3x periscope telephoto. If we look at the current camera setup, which is right here, we have a 48 megapixel primary, a 64 megapixel 3x optical periscope, and a 48 megapixel ultra wide. So they're changing all three sensors, or at least that's what it seems like until you dig a little bit deeper. And this is like where we get into speculation, but speculation is fun. So that's what we're going to do. We're looking at the OnePlus 12 right now. And if you look at that main camera, you'll see that it is a 50 megapixel sensor, but pay attention to the size of the sensor, 1/1.43 inches. Back to the Open, 1/1.43 inches, 1.12 micrometer pixels, 1.12 micrometer pixels. So I actually think that these are the same sensor. Why is this lower resolution? It's probably been ever so slightly cropped in just a wee bit to basically save space, but I think it's probably the exact same sensor. So what I think is going to happen for the OnePlus Open 2 is you're probably going to have the same sensor as the primary sensor serving as all three sensors. I will say that I'm curious about this ultra wide though, because it's also 48 megapixels, but it has different pixel sizes and a different sensor size. So this might be a different sensor entirely. If that's the case, that one's changing and the telephoto is changing. This is actually a good thing, even though the telephoto is dropping in resolution. Resolution is not the end-all, be-all. Sensor size, pixel size matter. So if we're going to go to a larger sensor, 1/2 is a smaller sensor than 1/1.43, and then larger micrometer pixels, you could get better zoom performance that way, even though you're losing some resolution. So this should be an upgrade, and it looks basically like they're using the exact same camera system as what is rumored for the OnePlus 13. That is very, very reasonable to me. What is unreasonable to me is the idea that this thing can have a 5,700 milliamp hour battery. I don't mean that to say that I don't believe the rumor. I mean that to mean that it just seems insane in my mind to have a battery that large inside a folding phone. The current Open is 4,800 milliamp hours. So if this thing goes over 5,500, let's go to this next part, adding wireless charging, having the latest, greatest Snapdragon processor, and a customized USB-C port, slimness, extreme slimness. There's a reason that USB-C port is customized. We actually need to look back at this post from a while back about the same phone where Digital Chat Station says record-breaking thinness. That is insane to have a battery that grows to that degree as wireless charging, and you're like pushing for insane thinness, 9 point something millimeters when closed is absolutely mind-boggling. You're building a phone that is so thin, this is my speculation here as well, so thin that you actually have to customize the USB-C port because that is now becoming a constraint against your thickness. I think it also requires just a different technology being used in the batteries to make a very, very dense battery. We've seen some companies doing things like this over in China. I cannot wait to see a phone like that come stateside, and it seems like the OnePlus Open 2 will be just that phone. What I'll say is that if this is all true and OnePlus delivers this phone and once again undercuts Samsung and Google, it's going to be really hard not to just say this is probably the foldable phone to get for the year 2025. I mean, their software is improving. We had a whole video here talking about Oxygen OS, was it 15? Yes, I believe it is 15. Lots of new AI features. They're really pushing that. If they can kind of iron out some of the bugs, continue to add features and catch up with some of the features that Samsung and Google already has, continue to polish things. I mean, this thing is going to be incredibly difficult to beat on paper. It is just ridiculously impressive. So guys, as always, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think about these specifications. Is your mind as blown as mine is actually reading these numbers, imagining that this is going to be a real phone? Let me know in those comments down below. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.